The second ruler is the multi-size 6-inch Flying Geese 45 90-degree triangle ruler. If you've been on any of the cruises with me, which I see several people have, you know I've talked about this ruler. I use this ruler all the time, and I want to walk through how I use it. So the first thing I do are my half square triangles with this ruler, which are these guys. And with your sewing machine, you have your 1/4 inch foot. I did a whole video on how I set up my 1/4 inch foot. It's on our YouTube channel, so please check that out at the Whimsical Workshop. But my sewing machine, I have this angler tool on it, and I have this bumper on it, and then I use a 1/4 inch foot. So I'm all set up to do a very accurate 1/4 inch seam. So if I were to just do traditional half square triangles where you draw a line down the middle, and I know that's a rough line, bear with me, it's not that accurate because you're only using point to point to measure instead of all your edges. So I like to do this for half square triangles. I will take the 2 fabrics that I want to have in my half square triangle, I cut them to size, and then I lay the 2 strips together and press them so they stick a little bit better to each other. And then again on the Creative Grids rulers, the white number is your cut size, the black number is your finish size, and I align the ruler with the top of the strips, the side of the strips, the bottom of the strips, and I cut. Now these guys are ready to just go right over to the sewing machine and line up with all my 1/4 inch gadgets, and it'll go out and you get a perfect half square triangle every time. And you don't have to sit there and layer them if you do this step first to get the half square triangles cut. So that is the one thing you can do with it. The other thing I like to do with it are Flying Geese, which look like this. So there's the Flying Geese, and how you would do that is you would cut 2.5 inch strips, which, by the way, let's back up. For half square triangles, you'd only have to cut 2.5 inch strips as well. So you don't have to add the extra 3/8. You're not fighting with 1/8 inch. Another beauty of this is you're always cutting nice round numbers. So now back to the Flying Geese. To cut the body of the geese, you'd lay your strip out, and you put this on there. So you lay the ruler on the 2.5 inch strip. This is for the body of the goose, or the goose, depending on where you are in the world. Some people call this the goose and this the sky. I learned it, this is the body and these are the wings. So it's up to you how you want to call your goose. So there we go, we've cut the body. And then to cut the 2 sides, we go right back to what we did for the half square triangles. You just lay this on the 2.5 inch strip. Cut it. Now another thing I like to do is, right now that dog ear has been cut off. This is a dog ear. I like to just flip this over while I have it stacked and whack off the other triangle point. So I have 2 blunt ends. It doesn't tell you to do that in the ruler, I just like to do that. So now you can lay this guy on here. And again, this was going into my sewing machine. I would line it up there and sew it, and I'd flip it out, and that would be that side. You press it, and then you do the other side. So the ruler does Flying Geese. And then the last thing the ruler does, it does other things, but for today, it does 1/4 inch triangles. So to do 1/4 inch triangles, you would cut, like we did the Flying Geese, you would just cut 4 of these triangles. And you would put them right sides together, aligning the edges. My fake sewing machine here. You just line it up, sew it, and flip it open. So you end up with this. And then you put these 2 guys. They were all the same. Then you just take one, flip it over, put it on, sew it through, and there's your 1/4 inch. I lied, I'm going to show you one more thing you could do with this. I've seen a lot of borders that go like this. And you have to cut a template piece that comes in the pattern. This way works beautifully. You can just line up that flat nib at the top, line up the edges, sew that, and flip it open, and you would have a triangle border. So this ruler does a lot of different things. The last thing that I do with the ruler that it's not drawn to do, or written to do, is I like to mark my square into squares. So how we do this, here's one done traditionally. And traditionally you would take a square, you would take a straight edge, you would align this point and this point, and you draw the line. And then you would sew on this drawn line. But when you're measuring to mark your line, you're only using this point and this point as your guide. So what I've discovered is if you take this ruler, or any ruler that's a 45 with a blunted end with the 1/4 inch seam built in, now I can align the top edge of the square, the side of the ruler, and the bottom of the ruler, and then draw this line. And then this line is where my 1/4 inch foot goes. And it gives you a much, much more accurate square in a square. So this one was sewn the traditional way. And I don't know how well we can see. You could see it didn't line up that corner, you could tell really, and I didn't purposely try to mess this up. But the triangles don't quite match up. How many of you guys have dealt with that with Flying Geese? It's not the end of the world, but then it can make these points a little bit off when you're trying to sew a bunch of them together. Doing it this way, there's my sewn line, there's my 1/4 inch foot line, and then when it flips out, it comes out perfect every single time, and I don't have to guess. And I just spent the week doing a pattern called Chocolate Covered Cherries that's coming out soon. The entire quilt was made this way, and by doing it with this method, all of my points matched on the blocks. So that is the second ruler.